last time, having just broken through on our second ring. You can see light poking through, and I think we'll just keep going with the other two. These holes right now are pretty rough looking, but that's fine. We'll get to that later, making them look pretty. For now, I'd love to break through, so I'm going to line up my cut as best I can. But the other hole, I know I'm not really keeping to my pencil marks. It's fine. Remember, conservative cuts are always the way to go. Gonna be scoring out what I want to cut away. Not super round, but of course, that's fine. Debating how I want to talk about my carving in these videos. I feel like it might get a little boring if I get repetitive between videos. But in the other project I'm working on, the skull, I was talking a bit about how when you need an extra boost of power in your cut to move the knife through the wood, you can use your left thumb as a fulcrum. The blade is one arm of the lever, and the handle is the other arm of the lever. The handle's super long, so that proportionally gives you a big magnification of power across your fulcrum, which is your thumb. So if you're going to move the blade through a particularly thick part of the wood, that's a really useful cut to use. Lever off of your left thumb. So I'm always looking for feedback because I'm very much new to this, recording videos. I'd love to know. I know I don't really incorporate much traditional ASMR, but I could, if you guys would like to hear some more tapping going on, somewhat unrelated to the wood carving. I'd love to throw that in if that's something that would be appreciated. Sticking to the same method as cutting out the other holes, which is doing cuts with the grain and across the grain to really loosen up all these fibers. draws. And I would say that his doodling methods, if you would call it a method, has been a big inspiration for some of the art that I've drawn. So, like this one, the philosophy behind it is just to put pen to paper and make some designs, draw whatever, and sometimes come out with something sort of cool looking. I would highly recommend checking out his channel for really relaxing and amazing, impressive videos. The man is an incredible artist. I love what he draws. It's so impressive. That's Peter Draws. I'm just gonna rehash this outline deep inside. Perhaps even head in from the other side here. Might be useful. Once you break through, everything gets a bit easier. You just have more leeway in different directions to maneuver the knife. Keeping the access on this side really small. I just think it's easier to match up the holes on either side once you've broken through. So one reason why I really changed the design of this after first beginning, you can see kind of the different pencil lines. The original pencil lines are here and here, so these rings were going to be pretty thin. And then I'm making the inner circles quite small, which means I have a lot more area, a lot more thickness that I can make the final ring. The reason for that is I just think the finished product is a little cooler, a little more impressive when it's very thick. we'll see how thick I can keep them. The thicker they are, though, the harder it is, because it just means you have less access. As I've said before, this project was originally my brother's. It was going to be kind of his first foray into wood carving, and he lost interest, but that was why the design was kind of very open. It just makes the first project a little bit easier when the rings are thinner and you have a little larger area that you're actually trying to carve. We're getting real close. I think I saw a bit of light peeking through here. So I'm going to do a bit of scraping, a bit of pushing, a bit of pulling. Not there yet. Perhaps it'll help try and loosen things up on this side. Now again, I'm splitting the wood here. I'm splitting the wood a little bit because I'm going against the grain. If I want to go with the grain, I need to come from below instead of above. Let's see. Very close. Now you might be wondering why I'm making this hole so dang small. Why don't I just extend all the way to the end of the ring here? Because this ring will need to go through some hole. Well, I don't know if I'm going to keep this ring this thick. I might end up bringing this ring in towards the pencil line here. I don't know where I'm going to end it. So that's why these holes aren't going all the way to the end. I think I'm going to end up increasing the size of the hole and also decreasing the size of the ring pretty much until they meet up. So that's my reasoning there. Like I said, a little bit less planning on this one, and we're going to feel it out and see what we come up with. If you're interested in doing a project like this, you can plan it out a lot more kind of accurately as well. There you have it, you can see through. You can make a decision as to what diameter you want your rings to be and what thickness you want your rings to be. And then, I mean, you can draw it on like a piece of paper and then use the paper to trace your measurements onto the wood. And then you have it right there for you, exactly what your measurements should be, what you're shooting for. You can draw it right onto the wood. That would be my recommendation. For a beginner, which is what we did for my brother. close enough so that I can take it out with the KT. Alright. I think that's getting there for this hole. And if I take a step back, basically, and I look at how those holes kind of line up, I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously, I need to extend a little bit in this direction, but if you imagine a circle, I think they'll line up pretty nicely. And again, we just need to decide on how thick we actually want this ring to be. Okay, that's 3 of 4 centers poked through. Let's move on. Again, I'm just kind of scoring from where the other one ends. Imagine that this ring is going to be about this thick. It may be thinner. But we'll just imagine that for now. I think it'll be a bit thinner on this side. I want to keep this part of this ring a bit thicker. So I'm thinking that I'll trim this ring back a bit. I'm gonna keep my hole ending around here. There we go. Okay. So I've just done my initial cross grain cuts. I kind of went in an X-shaped pattern. See how loose things are. Not bad, not bad. That's a good chunk out. Let's do the same thing again. I'm gonna rescore. Rescore the bottom as well. One thing I do want to consider is that as I'm cutting on the bottom, my knife is right up against where this ring will continue. So I don't want to angle too far downwards because then I'd be cutting into this ring. So I want to keep my blade very much parallel lesson that you learn from every piece. I've never made anything that's been perfect. There's always something I know that I'll do differently next time, and that's very good. Always learning and always improving. That's what keeps things fresh and fun. So what I really learned from this piece is that sawing is more important than I imagined. It's kind of, well, it's interesting to go into a piece knowing that you've already compromised the final outcome because of your sawing. Like I said before, though, I'm just gonna see if I can pull some artistic wizardry, I suppose, and integrate the imperfections into the piece in an interesting and organic way. I might not be able to, especially with the lopsided pieces there, but we shall see. Scraping sounds are a little bit harsh. Hope it's not bothersome. I'll try and keep it on the gentler side when I'm scraping, licking out these pieces of wood. How's that? So close there. Let's go again from this Yeah, there we go. I see light. Lowered the floor of this. I met up with the roof of my other hole. So I'm gonna have some evening out and flattening of that ring to do inside this hole. Once I clear out this rubble, you should be able to see on the camera. Let's see. There we go. So on this side, I need to go quite a bit higher. So here's an example where most of my cutting power is coming from pressing down, using my thumb as a fulcrum. That gives me the most amount of control over the blade that I can have. I don't want any slipping going on. I should not be prying the wood with my knife either, though. Yeah, switch over. There we go. Nice. Looking good. Looking good. Widening that a little bit. Let's get in there. This hole over towards the center more. Now, my first instinct is to cut backwards from this direction and curve my blade down. But I know that since the grain is running in this direction, I'll just split the wood. So I'm going to come upwards instead from around here. That was a bit of a slip, but where did I slip to? Just forward, and as soon as I stop putting that downward motion on my thumb, the knife's not really going anywhere. And for some reason, this part is kind of hard. I don't know if there's maybe a small knot in the wood. I did run into a knot earlier. I think in the first video of this series where I was... where is it? I think it's right here. This wood is very hard. And if you look really closely, I don't know if you can see it anymore. It might even have been carved away, but there's an area of wood somewhere on here that was a little bit curly. The grain was not straight. Straight grain like this, you know, is fairly easy to cut through, but sometimes you have a burl or a knot, and the grain curls, and it gets pretty difficult to cut through sometimes. right across the width of the grain. That's why that large shave came up pretty easily. I just split the grain in and cut the wood. Now I'm cutting the wood, and I should get that piece out as one whole. You can kind of see what I mean. I'm going to push it through to the back and try and catch it. It actually kind of broke up, but you can see like a large flat flake. Alright. I'm going to plane in the other direction, towards the back. And I'll show you from this side, actually. You can see my blade. I'm going to cut it and just split that wood. Now it's still connected at the back. So I'm going to make it downwards cut across the grain to separate it. That's the kind of cut that you can really hear because you're cutting through the wood fibers instead of just splitting them. Or separating them, I guess. There's that large flake. Okay, so there's still a little bit of a ledge, but that'll be easier to even out once the hole is a bit wider. This is again an area that I'd like to clean up a bit. There we go. It's gonna look a bit nicer. Alright. I know I want this ring to be a little bit thicker than it appears here, so what I need to do is bring this ring back. Separate all these pieces at the base. Okay, so let's see how do I like this thickness? It's a bit better, maybe a little bit more over here. I think that's fine. Maybe a little further. I also have to consider this width here, this width, and this width. I can see that this width is much, much thicker. It's okay. I think these rings are going to be kind of not uniform thickness, so like this will be the skinny side, this will be the thick side, and it'll taper around the length of the ring. But it'll be an interesting little variation. Another area that's quite uneven. So I'm just doing a See that? Just took up that flake there. Now, one thing you might notice as we get towards the final thickness of the ring is that I'm going to be trying to cut a lot more gracefully, I suppose you could say. Up till this point, all my cuts have mostly been pretty rough. I mean, I'm not super worried about hitting actual areas of final ring structure. But now I'm going to start to be pretty conscientious of that. So I think things will start to look a little bit more pretty. A little bit smoother, perhaps. We'll see. I could be wrong. I might just be having high hopes here, but that's my goal. I'm going to try and be a little more gentle and smooth things out. So I am going to stop this video here. We're through in all 4 areas of circle. In the next video, I'm going to start really shaping out these rings, making a decision as to how thick I want each of them and how I want them to taper. And then the final few steps will be separating the rings, so widening these circles, separating this ring from this ring here, and here in the center. And then finally really smoothing them out, making them round, all of that. So, please join me in the next video. I look forward to seeing you there.